Sitting in the southeastern corner of the Bretonnian royarchy, sandwiched between the heaths and plains of Quenay and Carcassonne's eastern borders and the western slopes of the Grey Mountains, lies the living, sentient forest of Athel Loren. It is an ancient and enchanted land of unparalleled natural beauty, untold wonders, and terror that is absolute. Deep within these forests reside the Wood Elves, called the Asrai by their own, known as the Faefolk by outsiders. They are an aggressively territorial group of elven colonists turned hunter-gatherers and their more ancient forest spirit allies. For the Wood Elves, and even more so the forest spirits that the lands teem with, Athel Loren has always been their place, and they guard it with zealotry and suspicion, since before even the Sundering. In all the millennia following the coronation of their god monarchs, Ariel and Orion, this great nation has never sought the glories and plunder of an expanding empire. They and their sacred sentient forest home seek only to persist through these uncertain and violent times, whether seeking kindling, magical energy sources, or wanton destruction. Foreign interlopers cutting down the trees, poaching the animals, befouling the soil and the rivers and the air with their unclean footsteps and their rank furtive breaths, should come prepared to defend their lifeblood against the Asrai. For the Wood Elves, every rock and tree and creature has a name, a spirit, and a life worth protecting, worth dying for. The Asrai regard the lands outside of their sacred forest with disdain and skepticism. But it is a common and grave error to conflate this attitude for isolationism. Expanding empire is unappealing to them, but Wood Elves do exert influence on geopolitical landscapes in their own way. Each spring, wild hunts pour out from the forest for fresh prey upon which to sate their seething bloodlust, which bubbles over following the Wood Elves' reclusive inactivity in winter. Asrai hosts, also known as war wheels, use the world roots growing from the Oak of Ages to quickly transport troops across entire continents to protect from corruption the forests that connect to these roots, and indeed, nearby outsiders with common interest. shape-shifting spirits posing as nobles or bourgeoisie infiltrate courts of foreign nations to bend policy in ways that benefit their own ends. No matter the venture, all the Asrai do, they do for the integrity of the weave, whose nexus lies within Athel Loren. The weave is the connection between all living things, the balance between life and death, and the very heart and soul of the planet. This is the Asrai way. They watch, but do not covet. They hunt, but do not conquer. They defend, but do not assume. This is not how their elven brethren across the seas conduct themselves, however. Unlike the High Elves, whom they consider pretentious, the Asrai do not claim guardianship of the entire planet, choosing instead to exert their might at key locations to maintain the weave and by extension Athel Loren. And unlike the Dark Elves, whom they deem degenerate, Wood Elves do not see the world as their plaything to raid and pillage as their sadistic whims dictate. As they do not partake in what are considered such wasteful exploits, combined with Athel Loren's atypical passage of time, Wood Elf populations, while lower in total numbers, are more stable than that of their diminishing cousins. They also tend towards stronger constitutions because the challenges of living in such a forest keeps them on their dainty elven toes. This tome will discuss the extra-canonical origins of the Wood Elves, how they compare to Wood Elves in other lores, their in-lore history, the forest of Athel Loren, the culture of the Asrai, their most famous leaders and heroes, their tactics, the 8th edition army roster, and finally, current versus potential implementation in Total War Warhammer, particularly in regards to the upcoming content.